Today we are beginning lesson 7 in our nonfiction reading unit, and this is the first part of this lesson. We have been working really hard learning about ways complex nonfiction gets hard. Some of the topics we've learned about so far is that headings and subheadings can be misleading and not help us as we're reading a nonfiction text. There could be several main ideas. Those main ideas could be implicit, which means they're hidden. The text is not going to come out and tell you exactly what the main idea is. And the vocabulary is hard and technical, so there may be brand new words that you've never heard before, and that can cause the text to be very hard. Today, I want to teach you that as text gets more complex, readers must study and consider the structure of the text. I want us to pause on this word structure. What does this word mean to you? Have you heard this word before? What's a definition you could give the word structure? Pause the video to discuss. The type of structure we are going to learn about today is text structure. What is text structure? A structure is a building. Text structure refers to how a piece of text is built. Builders can use different kinds of structures to design buildings. We could have a skyscraper, and even think of some of the ways buildings that you often go to, like a mall or a house, might be differently built than a school. Writers use different structures to build their ideas, and each text structure communicates ideas in a different way. Some common nonfiction text structures that we will be using in fourth and fifth grade include the four that are on the screen here. The first is chronological, and chronological text is ordered with words like first, then, next, after that, finally, before, after. So at the very beginning of the text, you'll learn about something that happened first. And then as you read through the text, it kind of goes in a sequence in order. Problem and solution. A problem is, a solution is, if, then, so, that. These are some examples of keywords that would tell you that this is a problem solution text. So the reading would first state an issue that's going on and then solve that issue. Cause and effect. So an event happens that causes something else. Some keywords: because, since, reasons, then, therefore, so, in order. And the last one, compare, contrast. And this is one we've learned quite a bit about in school so far this year. And it's looking at the similarities and differences between two items. Some keywords are different, same, alike, similar, although, but, yet, or. Today, we are going to be reading two short nonfiction texts, and you will be looking for these different types of text structures in the text that we read. Both texts are going to focus on the topic of onions. And as many of you probably know from experience, maybe seeing someone in your family cut an onion, when we are cooking and cutting an onion, unfortunately, we often cry. It makes our eyes sting and water when cutting an onion, and we're going to learn a little bit more about why that happens today. So again, we are going to read two different short pieces of text, and after each one, we will be pausing to determine which type of text structure is shown. Yellow onions and white onions are very similar. In fact, beginning cooks often use these onions interchangeably. When a cook reads a recipe that calls for an onion that will need to be cooked, they likely they are likely to reach for an onion, a yellow onion or a white onion. The most obvious difference between yellow onions and white onions is their color. However, there are also more subtle differences. A yellow onion usually has a tough outer skin. In contrast, a white onion tends to have a thinner, more tender skin. Whereas white onions retain their sharp flavor throughout cooking, yellow onions become sweeter the longer they cook. Thinking about this first piece of text, what type of text structure is shown in this text? Pause the video to discuss. This text shows compare and contrast. We were comparing the two types of onions, yellow onions and white onions. We learned that they have many similarities because cooks often use them interchangeably in recipes. So even if a recipe calls for a white onion, they could use a yellow onion instead. However, some differences. Yellow onions have a different color. They're yellow, whereas white are white. Yellow onions have a tough outer skin, and white onions have a much thinner outer skin. Yellow onions taste sweeter the longer they cook, whereas white onions have a very sharp taste that stays the same throughout cooking. Let's read our second passage. However, before we begin, I just want to kind of give you this little tidbit of information. Sometimes a text could have more than one structure. It may have two of these different types of structures. And that is your hint for this next reading. So think, do you see two different examples in the reading? Cutting an onion can be extremely unpleasant and extremely unpleasant experience. In fact, it is so awful that it often results in eyes that sting like bees and tears streaming down the cook's face. Have you ever wondered what causes this undesirable outcome and how you can avoid it? Slicing the onion releases sulfuric acid into the air. This sulfuric acid reacts with the moisture in a person's eyes and results in the tearful reaction. There is a simple solution to this common problem. Cut the onion under a stream of running water. This will prevent the sulfuric acid from reacting to your eye's moisture. If you follow this tip, you will likely have a positive onion cutting experience without the tears. Remember, with this one, there are two types of text structures shown here. Pause the video to discuss which two you think it is. The two text structures of this example were cause and effect and problem and solution. The cause of the sulfuric acid released from the onion, because that it causes us to cry or our eyes to hurt. That's the effect of that acid in the air. A problem then is our eyes are stinging and watering, and it makes it really hard to cook. The solution is that before cutting, you could take the onion and run it under water in the sink. I actually have never tried that, so I think I'm going to have to try it very soon. So that means we are wrapping up our lesson now, and ways complex nonfiction gets hard, we are adding another post-it to our chart today. There are many complex or hybrid structures, so that means that the text is structured in a way that could be in a chronological cause and effect, compare contrast, problem solution, or a combination of more than just one. You are going to go to your small groups now to learn more. Thanks, Team Persevere.